During the First War, Canada raised a number of battalions. They were numbered from 1 all the way through to 260. Now, by numbering the battalions, it eased the transition of the troops from one unit to another, particularly when we look at the slaughterhouses of Verdun and the Somme and Passchendaele, when you needed to move troops very quickly to backfill positions. So the regiments were all numbered, and that made life a little easier, very similar to the American system of numbered regiments. We did, however, have named regiments at the time, of course, which are legendary. The Royal Canadian Regiment, the Royal Canadian Dragoons, Princess Patricia Canadian Light Infantry. We had the Royal Canadian Artillery at the time. So although we did number the regiments, we have what's called predecessor regiments. This particular area, for example, the 155th Battalion was the Bay of Quinte. The 254th was actually Quinte's own, Sportsmen. So these battalions became predecessors to the current battalion here, which is the Hastings Prince Edward Regiment. The Hasty Peas, of course, were an amalgamation of the Hastings Rifles and the Prince Edward. These regiments go back pre-Confederation. Both these regiments, of course, were part of the disorganized as well as the organized militia. They fought during the War of 1812. They also, after Confederation, fought in 1885 in the Northwest Insurrection. During World War II, the building, of course, was home for the Hastings Prince Edward Regiment. In September of 1939, when war was declared, the Belleville Armories immediately switched into operational or wartime footing. The unit itself was largely moving out of the Picton Armories at the time. From September 1939 to December 1939, the regiment engaged in bolstering the strength, additional training, and of course kitting out the troops. In September of '39, there was basically a mishmash of uniforms, interwar period as well as First War, some newer uniforms, but of course the whole point of uniformity is everyone wearing the same uniform, everyone having the same kit. So from September 1939 to December of 1939, the regiment was equipping itself, preparing itself to go to war. Late December 1939, the regiment embarked from the local train station to the ride to Halifax, where they embarked on board ship to arrive in Europe in January of 1940. If you look to the center over here, you have the battle honors for the Hasty Peas on a Hasty Pea cap badge, and you have a movable podium. One of the unique things, of course, that's been the focal point, is that the Hastings Prince Edward Regiment received the most battle honors of any Canadian regiment during the Second War. So it's a point of pride, of course, for the regiment. The Kitching Trophy was for patrolling exercises, and at any point in time, the different regiments will compete, and whoever wins it has the right to have the banner. I don't know if they still run that level of exercise anymore, but at one point the Hasty Peas did in fact win that trophy. The Hasty Peas at one point had satellite companies, so they had an armory in Norwood, they had an armory in Madoc as well. If you look at, if you drive to Madoc and you see the old armory, it still has a Hasty Pea crest on it. A good book on the regiment, of course, is Farley Mowat's book, The Regiment. Farley, of course, was the intelligence officer during the war. His father, Angus, was a major who did training during the war, and also responsible for a lot of interlibrary setup and establishment for interlibrary loans. A lot of local history through here, but also a lot of national history, if you will. I would think that the one part of the building that I wish the local populace would take more advantage of would be when doors are open, that wonderful program, to have people come through and actually check it out and realize that the Armories is a living, breathing part of the community. At one point, the 5th Prime Minister of Canada, Mackenzie Bowell, Sir Mackenzie Bowell, was actually a major here. We have his sword in the museum. When we look at things like that, the integration of the community, when we look at the training that went on here in the interwar period, let alone during the Second World War, where of course it became a focal point. I guess if I was trying to think of one thing that I would like people to know about, it would just be that the Armory is part of the community, part of the larger community, and it's available for people to come and learn.